Hey everyone, I wanted to rant about the Avalanche Rantanen trade. I just feel like I've gotten enough information now. I've looked into it. Obviously you have your initial feelings, and at the end of the day, this is one of the biggest trades we've seen in a while. Like when we're talking about the last decade, the last blockbuster that at least got my attention like this. I mean, there's a few that come to mind, but one obviously was Shea Weber, PK Subban. Even the Gensel trade last year was pretty massive, but Mikko Rantanen's been a top 10 NHL player the last 3-4 years, right? And huge part of the Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup and just overall, I was looking at the last 4 years. He's right up there for point production with McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon. So Avs fans, comment your thoughts. My thoughts, I think this was premature, and I think that as much as Marty Necas is having a great year, they are putting all of their eggs in a basket with Marty Necas for, I would say, just overall the view on Rantanen as an Av and what they could have kept long term. For example, Necas, if he doesn't end up showing to the expectations that they have and obviously put up a point per game and be a 30, 40 goal scorer, if he doesn't put up those expectations, then he'll kind of fizzle off and he won't be, I would say, a match for this trade and won't be the right value that they got back. Or on the other hand, he does end up playing well, and he's only on a 2-year deal here, and you still have to sign him for $8 to $9 million. Is there a huge gap where Rantanen at 13 or 14 is worth it? My problem is you were so close on the gap based on the rumors and speculation that Rantanen apparently wanted $14 million or close to it. All the sources that I even talked to and different people is these guys, the next wave of stars. So you saw the McDavid contract, 12.5. You saw what obviously Matthews signed for. It's just going to keep going up from there, especially with the salary cap going up. So Matthews just signed for over $13 million. You're talking about a Stanley Cup winner in Rantanen, a bigger point producer in the last few years. He's been consistent. He's obviously going to get more than Matthews' money on the open market. I would not be shocked if Mikko Rantanen gets $14 million in the open market. And does Carolina pay that? That's why for both sides this is so risky, but specifically for Colorado, it's just so tough because I feel like you had the three-headed monster with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. It makes Colorado scary every year. Now you do not have that. And every Avalanche game I watch, Nathan McKinnon impresses me more and more every game. He does the little things so well, but just he looks dominant doing it. And obviously he's dominant end to end, both ends of the ice, the way he scores, the way he maneuvers himself around players. I even look at a team like Toronto or look at a team sometimes like Tampa. Certain guys want to carry the puck in, and sometimes it alternates. For Tampa, sometimes it's Point, sometimes it's Cooch. More times it is Cooch, but Point, Gensel. For Toronto, it always alternates between Nylander, Matthews, Marner. I look at a team like Colorado, and again, it was Rantanen a lot of times, but it's Nathan McKinnon dominating the ice, dominating, asking for the puck, wanting the puck at all times. But I still feel like Rantanen was right there. So my argument is, while the Avs are still going to be fine being led by Nate Mack and Cale Makar, losing Mikko Rantanen, regardless of what you get, and it's always the conversation, it's always the message, whoever loses the best player in the deal loses the deal regardless. I don't know if that's always the case, but for this scenario, it is such a tough loss for Colorado. I'll play devil's advocate and talk about why this can be good for Colorado, and it's going to be another video I make, is what's the next move for Colorado? That's what matters here, and that's what Frank Saravelli, a lot of insiders were talking about, Colorado's not done. They can't be done. They simply cannot be done. Joe Sakic and the management need to look at this and go, hey, we created cap space for a reason. We created cap space for a reason to get, whether it's younger or another piece in. I still think a guy like Casey Middlestat has a big ceiling. Yes, he's 26 years old. I think he is inconsistent, but he shows signs of just being a really good player. And I feel like this guy, whether you look at Washington and what Dylan Strome and Pierre-Luc Dubois have been able to do in a different scenario, I feel like that's the case for Middlestat. He just hasn't found the right spot. And he's looked better at times again, but even in Buffalo, he looked good at times. He looked really good at times and was Buffalo's best player the year prior to getting moved. So my argument is, I think there's still some value for Middlestat. Maybe you flip him for one of the Canucks players that are in the rumors right now, or do something that gives you a significant piece to support McKinnon in that forward group. At the end of the day, Colorado won a Stanley Cup with Rantanen and McKinnon up front, but they also won the Stanley Cup with Nazem Kadri's huge playoff performance when he was obviously there. And just overall, you need that secondary support. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I am really torn, but Colorado loses on the surface because you lost one of the best players in the National Hockey League. It's as simple as that. Specifically right now, I mean, I just ranked it recently, but Rantanen's a top 10 NHL player. Like, they lost a top 10 NHL player. I don't know if Martin Necas, for me, is even a top 40 or 50. He's over a point per game, of course. But for me, if he was top 40, 50, he's probably later in that list. Like, if I'm looking at the top 30 NHL players, Marty Necas is just not there. So let me know what you guys think of the trade. Again, if you guys didn't see it, go look it up. But you're talking about Mikko Rantanen to Carolina. Chicago flips Taylor Hall to Carolina as well. Chicago gets a late or an early second-round pick, basically a late second. It was their original pick, so it's going to be an early third-round pick. And a lot of people are on Chicago's case and Kyle Davidson. I don't know what you're talking about. Taylor Hall hasn't been great with Chicago. Yeah, they retained salary, but an early third-round pick, a top 65 draft choice is still going to be good for the value. And then, I mean, again, Colorado, we'll see what Martin Necas is and what they use for that cap space. I think the big thing is the cap space, because I think Mikko Rantanen is going to sign in the open market. And this kind of talks about the greed with players right now, but he's going to sign for like $14 million, I think, plus. And that's crazy to say. It's crazy that it keeps going like that. But when we're talking about in a couple of years, $100 million salary cap, it's the scenario we're in, and Connor McDavid's going to sign a stupid deal when his comes up. So thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, notification bell. Like I said, it's a massive loss for Colorado, and it's a massive, massive loss if you don't make a secondary move after that. I'll make another video. Look out for it, talking about the next moves Colorado can make. Peace.